There are more things in heaven and earth, Horatio, than are dreamt of in your philosophy.
Good afternoon. I hope you like my new lab coat. My daughter and son-in-law bought it me for Christmas, and it's quite comfortable and nice. And although it's now the 9th of February, and the weather's been very up and down, it's 2018, and mind you, the sun's shining at the moment, so we mustn't complain. Now, what we're going to do today is briefly take a look at different size gramophone records, disc records, and above all, we're going to be looking at a very big one. There were very tiny records, the smallest I know about, just over an inch in diameter, and they were made in the UK for the Queen's Doll's House, which was what it says, full of tiny furniture and books and all sorts of things like that, made by specialists and famous artists. And they were available to the public, but for some reason they're extremely scarce and quite expensive. The next size that you'll commonly find is 3.5 inch. This is an Imperial Crystallate advertising record, and they did quite a few different versions of them. And I think there's one for Rex, their Rex label. Most of them are to do with the fact when Jack Payne defected from Columbia, which of course was a top price label, and went to Imperial, which is a cheap line, and most of them are to do with that. And then there's 5 inch, this is a jumbo sample record of about 1908, so they're quite scarce, and it plays very well actually. And then you get 4.5, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 inch, of course 25 centimetres is the commonest one of all, along with the 12 inch, which is 30 centimetres. Yeah, you know, there's millions of those. When you go above that size, it thins out quite drastically. Now here we've got a 14 inch, where we call it, it's actually 13 3/4 inch Pathé vertical cut. This is part of an operatic set from 1912, and you can just about play those with any luck on an ordinary record deck. You might have to stack it up a bit to clear the switch, but you can play those. Then of course we come up to the Vitaphone discs, the film soundtrack records at 16 inch, and you do have a bit of a bother playing them. You have to make something up or look around for an actual 16 inch transcription turntable, which is a tedious and difficult thing to do. But there were discs even larger than that, and there are two companies made discs which were 20 inches in diameter. One of them was in England called Neophone, that was around from 1906, 1908, and the reason they made their discs large was because their track, they were vertical cut as well, their track was quite wide, so a 12 inch Neophone would only play for about 2 minutes, just over 2 minutes, and people said this isn't long enough, and they agreed and made a 20 inch diameter record which would play for 4 minutes. Now those are extremely scarce. They're made out of thick cardboard with a layer of white enamel into which the grooves are pressed. That's very hard to find, they are. I've never seen one, I've seen a photograph of one. There's one other company in France, Pathé again, that actually did make a 50 centimetre record, which is as near as anything 20 inches. And they are, of course, big and are you there? Yes, they're big and quite cumbersome. And Pathé originally made their 20 inch records for a different reason. Pathé wanted their records louder so that you could play them outdoors at a garden party or in a large hall. And things like this, valves and things that could amplify sound, were in their veriest infancy at the time. So Pathé hit on the idea of doing it mechanically, so we'll have a big record and we'll make it rotate very quickly, in fact 120 RPM, which is very fast. And I've just worked it out that if you put on a 20 inch Pathé where the little ball stylus that they were played with is in the outside of such a record going at 120 RPM, the record is going past at 612 feet a minute, which is, it's fast, and so the undulations in the groove are really giving the ball stylus a hammering. You know, the energy's coming up from the motor and it's operating the point, and the point, if it's got a nice big horn to it, it's going to be very loud. Well, that's enough waffle from me, but what I can now reveal is that this 20-inch Pathé is not one of the Pathé concert series which ran at 120 RPM. Yes, I know, I've just explained about that, but people said to Pathé, wouldn't it be good if your records would last a long time? Then we could play them as interval music and stuff like that. And so Pathé had to think about it, and in 1913 they introduced a 20-inch disc that ran at 60 RPM, and it would last for 6 or 7 minutes, thereby being a kind of quite a long playing record for the time. And this is one of them. Well, if this is such an interesting record, we must obviously play it, but you know, we're not going to get very far that way, are we? No, we'll have to think of something else. Well, here we are, a nice little standalone turntable. I've taken the arm off some time ago, and you know, will the record go on it? Here we go. Where's the centre? Ah, yes, there we are. And if we switch it on, will it run? And it's beginning to run. And let's give it a bit of a lift. And it's rotating. And let's just see. And it's rotating at 78. And here's a block of wood with a pivot on it, arranged nearby. It's fastened down with blue tack, so it's not going to go anywhere. And here, and since it's a French record, we might call this a chef-d'oeuvre. It's a piece of balsa wood with a wire attached to it, at the end of which, suitably cranked, is a Shure M44 cartridge with a 0035 truncated elliptical stylus, and it's wired for playing vertical cut. Well, the disc going at 78, here's our arm, and of course they do start in the middle, and the high velocity is at the edge, of course. Let's see what we can do here. Whoops. Hey! Woohoo! Well, there we are. It's all over by the kicking and screaming. Sorry, take two. It's all over by the shouting. All we need to do now is to get it down from 78 to 60 RPM, and we'll be able to actually listen to the 20-inch Pathé Disc Theatre, which is what they were called, the theatre discs, playing in the intervals, the theatre, so that the pit band could go and have a drink in the interval. Speaking of which, I'm just refreshing myself. By Jove, that's better. No, but seriously, I don't think I can put that in. I won't put that in. It's curious that we should have mentioned kicking and screaming, because right now we have been dragged kicking and screaming into trying to record our computer screen in PowerPoint and then export it. So because it's a jolly useful thing. Now here we have the file we recorded. It's 5 minutes long, and there's one or two quite significant clicks in it, but there are so few they can be removed manually later. What we need to do is get it down from 78 to 60, and I've worked it out that if we reduce it by 23%, it will play true. So there's a little clock here which says change speed, speed up or slow down. Well, I'll click it. Now there is a pitch control, and we can go up 100% or down 50%. So I'm going to enter minus 23, and over here I will also enter minus 23, and then run it, and behold, a screen's come up saying caution, the file has changed its length. Well, of course it will, won't it? So we get rid of that, and we get rid of that, and then we zoom out on that, and here is our new file at the bottom, which now lasts for just under a whisker under 7 minutes. So we'll put it on the top like so, and there it is, and it's 7 minutes long. So what does it sound like? I'll play it through the speakers. Well, that sounds very promising, so let's get it into digital form. Okay, here's the label, and we've taken out all the clicks and spibbed up the audio a bit, a little lift in the bass, a little lift in the treble, and now you can hear it. You don't have to listen to all of it, of course, but I think because this is such an important record, I'm going to introduce it in French, so please bear with me. Mesdames et messieurs, ici, vous entendrez un disque Pathé du Théâtre enregistré en 1913 avec 2 morceaux. Le premier, Liline, danse argentine, et le deuxième, Céline, polka. Merci infiniment. Au revoir.
There are more